Some mysteries are solved by time. Records surface. Science catches up. Someone, somewhere, finally talks. But a rare few refuse. They sit in the historical record, documented, witnessed, real, and simply never give up their answer. Tonight we are counting down 7 of them. 7 genuine mysteries, from the bottom of the ocean to the edge of the galaxy, that investigators, scientists, and obsessives have circled for decades, and that remain, to this day, unsolved. Number 7. In October 1582, millions of people went to bed on the 4th of the month and woke up on the 15th. 10 days gone, not lost to disaster or war, but deleted, on purpose, by order of Pope Gregory XIII. The old Julian calendar ran about 11 minutes too long each year, and after centuries, the drift had pulled Easter out of line with the real spring. The fix was surgical, cut 10 days out of existence. Spain, Portugal, and Poland switched overnight. But here is the strange part. Not everyone followed. England held out for nearly 2 centuries, until 1752. Russia kept the old calendar until 1918, which means that for hundreds of years, crossing a border could move you 10 days through time. The mystery here is not what happened, it is how completely we accepted it. The calendar on your wall is a repair job, and almost nobody remembers the surgery. Number 6. June 30th, 1908. The sky over Siberia splits open, and a blast flattens 80 million trees across more than 2,000 square kilometers. A man 65 kilometers away is thrown from his chair. That night, the skies over Europe glow bright enough to read a newspaper at midnight. And then, nothing. The site was so remote that scientists did not reach it for 19 years. When they finally arrived, they expected a crater. There was none. No impact site, no fragments, just millions of dead trees lying in a vast radial pattern pointing away from an empty center. The leading theory is an asteroid or comet that exploded in the air before it ever touched the ground, a blast hundreds of times more powerful than Hiroshima. But with no crater and no debris ever recovered, more than a century later, the Tunguska event remains the largest impact in recorded history that left nothing behind. Number 5. In December 1872, sailors aboard a British ship called the Dei Gratia spotted something wrong in the middle of the Atlantic. A ship under sail, moving, with no one at the wheel. She was the Mary Celeste, and when they boarded her, the strangeness only deepened. The cargo intact, the crew's belongings untouched, food and water for months. But the captain, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and all 7 crew, gone. The only thing missing was the single lifeboat. A court of inquiry found no evidence of piracy, no sign of struggle, no reason at all. 10 people stepped off a perfectly seaworthy ship into a small open boat in the middle of the ocean, and none of them was ever seen again. A century and a half of theories, mutiny, fumes from the cargo, water spouts, and not one of them has ever been proven. The sea kept this one. Number 4. The day after Christmas 1900, a relief ship reaches the Flannan Isles lighthouse on the bare rock of Eilean Mor, 20 miles off the coast of Scotland. No one answers the signal. Inside, the lamps are cleaned and ready, the doors are shut, a clock on the wall has stopped, and all 3 lighthouse keepers are simply gone. The official investigation blamed a single enormous wave sweeping the men from the cliffs, but the details refused to sit still. One keeper's oilskin coat was left behind, meaning he went out into a December storm without it. No bodies were ever recovered. And the famous detail everyone remembers, a half-eaten meal abandoned on the table? It never existed. A poet invented it years later. The real record is stranger for being so quiet. 3 experienced keepers, a locked island, and a light that went dark with no one left to tend it. Number 3. February 1959. 9 experienced hikers pitch their tent on a snowy slope in Russia's Ural Mountains, a place the indigenous Mansi people call Dead Mountain. Sometime in the night, something happens that no one has ever been able to explain. The hikers cut their way out of their own tent from the inside and fled into the darkness, into air of -30 degrees. Some were barefoot. None were dressed for the cold. Weeks later, searchers found the slashed tent, 9 sets of footprints, and, scattered down the mountain, 9 bodies. Some had injuries a Soviet doctor compared to a car crash. And one detail haunts every retelling. There was supposed to be a 10th. A hiker named Yuri Yudin turned back days earlier because of joint pain and spent the rest of his life asking the question the whole world still asks. What, in the middle of a silent winter night, makes 9 rational people cut through their own shelter and run towards certain cold, rather than stay and face whatever was outside? Number 2. In the summer of 1997, underwater microphones built to listen for volcanoes picked up something no one expected. A sound, deep, immense, and loud beyond reason. So loud it was recorded by sensors more than 5,000 kilometers apart. They called it the Bloop, and for years it was the ocean's favorite ghost story, because its rising pulse looked biological, like a call. And if it was an animal, the math said it would have to be far larger than a blue whale, larger than anything that has ever lived. The answer, when it finally came, was almost as humbling. The best explanation is an icequake, a massive iceberg fracturing off Antarctica, its cracking carried for thousands of kilometers through the deep sound channels of the sea. Almost as eerie, the sound was traced to one of the loneliest stretches of the South Pacific, nearly 2,000 kilometers from the nearest shore, the same desolate region where writers once placed their fictional sea monsters. The ocean, it turns out, does not need monsters to make sounds like one. And number 1. The night of August 15th, 1977, a radio telescope in Ohio called the Big Ear is quietly scanning the sky when something arrives. A signal 30 times louder than the background of space, narrow and clean like a deliberate broadcast, sitting almost exactly on the one frequency scientists predicted an alien civilization would use. It lasted 72 seconds, precisely as long as a fixed point in deep space would stay in the telescope's view. Days later, an astronomer named Jerry Eman found it in the printouts, circled 6 characters in red pen, and wrote a single word in the margin. Wow. Here is what makes it number 1 on this list. It has never happened again. Not once. The world's great telescopes have returned to that patch of sky in Sagittarius for nearly 50 years and heard only silence. One perfect, unrepeatable moment where the universe seemed to say something and then went quiet. If you want the full story, the theories, the comet that took the blame, and the alibi that cleared it, and the star that might be the source, we made an entire documentary about it. It is on this channel right now. 7 mysteries, centuries of searching, and not one confirmed answer among them. Maybe that is why we keep coming back to them, because a solved mystery is a story, but an unsolved one is a door left open. So tell me in the comments, which of these could you not stop thinking about? And which real mystery should we cover next? Subscribe and stay curious. There is always another one waiting in the vault.